share my presentation.
Yes.
So we are going to discuss about the posterior polar.
You can minimize right side small one, sir. Right side down one. You can minimize this one, sir.
Okay.
No, not that. No, not that. Right side top one, sir. Yeah, you can minimize it. Ganesh, can you help minimize that one, please?
Yes.
Which one?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Go on, please. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry for that. We are going to discuss about the posterior polar cataract and its management. We all know posterior polar cataract is a difficult management problem, and it's because it's associated with an abnormal adhesion of posterior capsule to the posterior polar opacity, or a pre-existing weakness of the posterior capsule, both of which can predispose to the posterior capsular rupture during cataract surgery. And PPCs are therefore a nightmare for many cataract surgeons. And several strategies are being propagated to reduce the PCR rate in these cataracts. So the incidence is somewhere around 3 to 5 per thousand population, and it is almost 65 to 80% of the cases it is seen as bilateral entity, and there is no gender predilection. And because of the abnormal adhesions of the opacity, polar opacity to the posterior capsule, or a pre-existing weakness, there is a tendency for PCR and subsequent nucleus drop in these cases. So there are several studies which have published their PCR rates in posterior polar cataracts. And the incidency of posterior capsular rupture, it ranges from 11 to 36% in the older publications, and the recent publications it ranges from 4 to 6%. With a better understanding of the surgical techniques and improving technology and increasing surgical experience, the incidence of these complications has been reduced. You can clearly see the difference with the older publications which were before 2000 and after 2000. Most of the publications which have published their data, the incidence of PCR rate is much less as compared to older data. And however, till date, there is no surgical strategy that can eliminate the occurrence of PCR in a case of PPC. Coming to the types of PPC, we have, this is actually classified by Duke Elder, and we have stationary PPC, which is, we can see on the left-hand side here, the central plaque, which is surrounded by concentric rings of opacity, and which is more common compared to the progressive type of PPC, and it's seen in almost 65% of the cases of PPC. And these actually will not cause much visual disturbances. Most of them have 6x6 vision, but they may have some night glare or difficulty driving in the evening, and so such problems they can encounter, but vision-wise, most of them maintain 6x6. Coming to the next variety of posterior polar cataract, it's a progressive type of posterior polar cataract. And here, the opacity becomes more symptomatic as the peripheral extensions of the central plaque it enlarges. So you can see the radiating riders here, which starts from the posterior polar opacity and it extends towards the periphery. And there's one study by Kumar S. Jagatram, which was published in Clinical Experimental Ophthalmology in 2010. So they have reported that polar opacities that measured more than 4 millimeters in diameter, they had a higher chance of PCR compared to those with less than 4 millimeters. Further, age is another criteria. Younger the age, more is the chance of PCR. Younger than 40 years has been reported to be an independent risk factor for PCR according to this study. And so the patients can have glare disability and reduced contrast sensitivity, and the condition can progress. And if it is seen in a pediatric age group, the patients can have strabismus and strabismic amblyopia. If the opacity is more than 3 millimeters, can lead to this. So, like some of the patients can have even PC defect. So you can see here on the right hand top picture, there is a tear already. There's pre-existent posterior capsular rent. So it's a dangerous condition. One has to do a thorough preoperative examination to rule out these pre-existing defects. So what exactly we have to look for in the preoperative evaluation is integrity of posterior capsule and the associated type of cataract. If most of the cases, if it is a stationary type of PPC, most often you see soft cataract, but in elderly patients, you can even see nuclear sclerosis. White cataract is another important thing. We have to examine the other eye of these patients before going ahead with the surgery. And anti-segment OCT can be useful in these cases. Kymionis et al. In the clinical ophthalmology have published their data on the OCT findings of posterior opacities. And what they have found is it's definitely this particular imaging technique is revolutionary. It can even detect small opacity, small defect in the posterior capsule, and it allows the surgeons to visualize the integrity of this posterior capsule. And it can be extremely useful in planning the surgical strategy as well as counseling the patient regarding the additional risk of PCR during surgery. And Titiol et al. In the year 2017, they published a report on the use of the microscope mounted intraoperative OCT system to visualize the integrity of the posterior capsule in PPCs. However, it should be kept in mind that the anti-segment OCT cannot definitely diagnose a rupture or a thin posterior capsule in every case. It can be a useful tool, but it cannot detect a weak posterior capsule or a thin posterior capsule or a fragile posterior capsule. So one has to be very careful during surgery. Just want to show few tips, and this is a case again a PPC. I'm just showing hydrodelamination. This is the conventional delamination technique. One has to be thorough in doing a delamination. Where exactly you have to introduce your cannula is just below the anterior capsular rim, and even if you don't get it in first to go, you have to wait. Inject a little bit of fluid underneath the capsule into the substance of the nucleus. Another case, so in one go you may not get a hydrodelineation. Keep injecting a little amount of fluid till you get a nice 360-degree golden ring. So here I am just injecting a little amount of fluid, but it is not separated fully on the other side. You can go ahead and inject some more fluid there so that you will have a free flowing nucleus within the capsular cushion. It's so easy to manipulate this nucleus under the epinuclear cushion. Another case, maybe an old video of mine, but depicts a nice golden ring. Sometimes, if you are not able to hydro delaminate, you can use your Sinskey hook to delaminate mechanically also. That is possible. So, in two injections, I am not able to form a 360-degree. This is the third injection. So, I have a nice 360-degree separation of the nucleus from the epinuclear cushion. Another case where injecting in one quadrant. Second quadrant, third quadrant. Yes, got a nice golden ring. So if you have a nice golden ring, you are safe, and chances of nucleus drop can be avoided. Otherwise, you may end up having a nucleus drop or a fragment drop into the vitreous cavity. So once the nucleus is out, then you have to separate the epinucleus. So you have a second golden ring here. So it shows the epinucleus is separated from the cortex, peripheral cortex. It becomes easy to evacuate or emulsify these epinucleus. And limited hydrodissection. This is actually the concept which was developed by Howard Fine to perform hydrodissection in multiple quadrants, injecting tiny amount of fluid gently, such that the fluid wave is not allowed to spread across the across the entire posterior capsule. Only a tiny amount of fluid. So if you see here, I'm just injecting little fluid. It goes up to some part of the posterior capsule, not the entire portion of the capsule. Then it becomes easy. You are safeguarding the posterior pole till the end. So inside out delineation, so we have discussed about the conventional delineation, hydrodelamination. So this technique actually was described by Dr. Vaivaswada, and this differs from the conventional hydrodelineation in that it can precisely delineate the central core of the nucleus. So first what we have to do is we just create a anterior capsular axis and a central trench is sculpted using a slow motion technique, and then a specially designed cannula. This is a right angle cannula which is introduced through the main incision, and the tip is then fixed, or it is placed adjacent to the right wall of the trench. This is the right wall and this is the left wall of the trench. You just place it in the right wall of the trench and inject fluid gently. And delineation is produced by the fluid traversing inside out. Fluid traversing inside out. Okay, so this is important. This is and different from the regular conventional hydrodelamination. Fluid injection may be repeated on the other side also. If you have not got a ring, golden ring. Inside out delineation is actually easy to perform, and it provides superior control, and it reduces the stress on the zonules, and precisely demarcates the central core of the nucleus. And coming to FLACS, femto laser assisted cataract surgery in PPC, we initially had Lensex with us, and we used to do cylindrical pattern for nuclear division, and the cylindrical pattern is actually chosen. It is the surgeon's preference. The number, depth, and width of these concentric cylinders are chosen by the surgeon only, and is guided by live anterior segment OCT view. We create 3 cylinders within the lens with a diameter of 5 millimeters for the outermost cylinder, and the posterior limit is around 500 microns from the posterior capsule. Usually we keep it at 800 microns nowadays. As the laser fires, it creates the capsulotomy first, and then these three cylinders, 1, 2, and 3 cylinders. And these cylinders actually, it doesn't require any hydro procedures. We can just go ahead and aspirate or emulsify these cylinders from inside out. And we have a cushion, that is when we are emulsifying the central cylinder, you have two cylinders and the epinuclear cushion. When you are removing the third cylinder, you have an entire epinuclear cushion. So you are protecting the posterior capsule during the procedure. And there was a clay model which was described by the same authors. And it depicts how each femtodelineated layer of the lens is removed while the outer layer still provides a mechanical cushion, which we have described now. And till the very end of the nucleus removal, this protects the weak part of the posterior capsule. So one by one, we are going to remove the cylindrical layers of the nucleus. So as we have described, as no hydro procedures are required for flags in PPC, and it's inside-out delineation creates only a single layer. And I'm just going to show a small video film on the management of posterior polar cataract. Just a moment. So we have these two varieties of posterior polar cataracts, and we know the complication most often is a nucleus drop or a fragment drop. So it can happen at any stage of the procedure, and this is happening when I'm removing the fragment. So step-by-step surgery, if you follow certain steps during, which is slightly different from the routine, it can help reduce the chances of posterior capsular rupture. And it should be adequate sized rhexis. We prefer around 4.5 to 5 millimeter diameter rhexis, because in case if there is a posterior capsular rupture, you can go ahead and place the lens in the anterior capsular rim with the optic capture, or you can place it in the sulcus with the optic capture. So if it is a large capsular rhexis, you may not be able to do it. So this is actually a hydrodelamination. Once it is done, you can even further demarcate it with the Sinskey hook. This is again a mechanical delamination along with the hydrodelamination, so that you're sure that there are no additions. If some areas which are not separated can be separated by mechanical delamination, and then go ahead and remove the or emulsify the nucleus either in toto, or you can chop this nucleus in situ. Supracapsular in the pupillary plane. And whenever you are withdrawing your instruments, try to inject viscoelastic substance and then come out. Maintain the chamber, that's very important. Prevent forward movement of the iridocapsular diaphragm. And then the second hydrodelamination to separate the epinucleus from the vertical cushion. And these epinucleus has to be removed from the periphery and preserve the central part of the epinucleus till the end, so that you have a separate support for the posterior capsule till the end. All the parameters should be low. It's slow motion phaco, and with the low parameters as described by Robert Washer, inject viscoelastic substance whenever you come out, and slowly aspirate the nucleus and then cortex, and should not do any posterior capsular polishing. Should be avoided. The lens is injected into the bag. Not much of manipulation should be done with the bag. Sorry. Sorry for this. One minute. Sorry. Okay. Yes, the lens is in the bag now, and you can see the uh, debris on the posterior capsule here. Can you see here? This is a rim of debris where this posterior polar opacity is attached to the posterior capsule. If you try to aspirate this, definitely there will be a chance of uh, posterior capsular rupture, because posterior capsule, even if it is not dehiscent, but it is weak and fragile, and it can lead to rupture if you aspirate these debris. So this is actually a relatively hard cataract. I'm trying to do hydro delamination. Sometimes you may not get hydro delamination, so you are trying to do it in different quadrants, but it's not possible. So do this mechanical delamination. In such cases, you do a mechanical delamination. Take a long scissors key and do it, or even a chopper, you can use it and do it. Then go ahead and do what is called a chop in situ. Just to go ahead and chop it. This is a direct chopping technique within the bag. You need not separate this two fragments. So you just try to pull it towards the center and then emulsify it in situ inside the bag, and no lateral movements. Don't stretch the posterior capsule by doing a lateral movement. Lateral separation to be avoided. And once this is done, you can remove the epinucleus as usual and then inject the lens into the bag. So it is little difficult in case of hard cataracts if the patient has got PPC, but you can always do it with good results. Flags in PPC, we have discussed this. This is a Lensis platform. First you create Rexis and then 3 cylinders. You can see here, it's happening here. 3 cylinders from inside out. 1, 2, 3 cylinders are happening. The first and the outermost is around 5.5 millimeters. Once this is done, you take him to the other theater and it's not a hydro delamination, you just burping. There will be air bubble, you just have to release this air bubble so that you have some space, and try to remove these cylinders with the low energy, and the IOP, if you see here, is low, 50 millimeters of mercury, and the low aspiration flow rate, and the vacuum is also low. So low parameters, you keep your bottle height at around 60 to 70 centimeters, and low energy is used to emulsify these cylinders. And then the epinuclear cushion is removed from periphery, preserving the central part till the end. Remove the cortex as described earlier. Place the lens inside the bag. It is safe. You are almost 500 to 800 microns away from the posterior capsule. This is one interesting case. You just observe this. I am just injecting viscoelastic substance into the antechamber. Just observe the posterior capsule. You can see there is a diagonal tear. There's a diagonal tear. Sorry for this. So this actually is a typical PPC. You have this plaque and surrounding which is the whorl pattern, and you see while injecting viscoelastic substance, there is a tear in the posterior capsule, posterior capsular tear. Once you detect this, it has to be very important. You have to observe these things, otherwise you may end up having a nucleus drop, and do a procedure as described. So it's a nice delineation, hydrodelineation, and do a nuclear emulsification and do a mechanical delamination. This is with the help of a spatula. Just no hydro delamination. You just have to do a mechanical delamination because you already have a large tear. So if you do a hydro delamination, then the whole epinucleus will drop into the vitreous cavity. Very carefully, by forming the chamber, when you are coming out, you have to maintain the chamber throughout so that it's already a big rent, but these epinuclear fragments should not be dropped into the vitreous cavity. And then once all these epinuclear fragments are removed, do a thorough anterior vitrectomy. And then you place the lens. So your lens is back. You see these kind of cases where you, when you are implanting the lens, see to it that this is a tear here, and your haptic is 90 degrees away from the tear. So that is very important. So it's nicely positioned within the bag. And PCR can occur in any stage of the surgery. There's a very old video, maybe the quality may not be that great. So if you see here, so far so good, just removing the cortex and some epinuclear chunks. And there is a debris here. This should not be touched, but I'm just aspirating it, but it has opened the posterior capsule. There is a tear in the posterior capsule. So don't come out immediately. Just inject a viscoelastic substance and then come out, so that you are tamponading the posterior capsule so that vitreous will not prolapse. There is no need for any anterior vitrectomy in these cases. This is another very interesting case. This PCR has, it can happen at any stage. It can start from the first step to the end. It's actually a hard cataract, so phacoemulsification went well, and epinuclear aspiration, everything went well as per the technique which we have described. Once the lens is implanted inside the bag, after giving a wash, I'm just forming the chamber by side port paracentesis, port hydration. Now you just observe the posterior capsule. You have a tear that is at the end of the procedure. So the take home is we have to provide a closed chamber during all stages of the surgery, and we have to maintain the contour of the anterior chamber or the eye. Slow motion phaco, mechanically you have to cushion the polar opacity throughout, and avoid capsular polishing so that you can get an optimal outcome. Thank you very much. So a few more slides. I can go ahead, Karthik.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay. So this is again we have already shown these two videos. This is a PC tear which is happening during IA, and which was recognized immediately. You can see there is a tear. This is the debris. I am just doing a polishing there, and capsule is opened. And don't come out immediately. So inject visco and then come out. If you come out immediately, what exactly can happen is this is so when you are polishing the posterior capsule, if the rent is there, you just come out without forming the chamber. This rent will progress. If you see, it's not very clear, but it has progressed. It has expanded. The tear has enlarged. So this is one important thing which has to be followed. And this is another important sign we have to observe. You see here when I'm injecting, just one more time, it's a pupillary snap. Yeah, there is a sudden constriction of the pupil. Sudden constriction of the pupil when you are injecting fluid, that is for hydro procedure. If you inject excess amount of fluid, it can cause increased buildup of hydraulic pressure, and it can cause posterior capsular rupture. So try to avoid that. In such cases, you have to identify these signs. There is a sudden constriction of the pupil and sudden deepening of the chamber. Such cases, you have to stop and then you have to slightly enlarge. If at all you are comfortable doing a phaco, you can go ahead and do it. Otherwise, you can bring the nucleus outside and into the antechamber and do a manual SICS. Whatever works well in your hands, you have to do it and do a closed chamber anti-revitrectomy, and then implant a lens inside the bag. So you can implant a lens inside the bag in these cases. So next, this is another important, interesting case. Is a brown cataract. No way you can make out any posterior polar opacity unless you have a anti-segment OCT or intraoperative OCT. So this particular patient, we are doing a hydro dissection as usual, as we do it for other patients. But there is a sudden giving way sensation, and nucleus started sinking, and you can see the speed with which it disappeared into the vitreous cavity. So don't chase these lenses or nucleus because once it is in the posterior vitreous or mid vitreous, it's out of reach. You should not chase it. You should not use your vectors to bring it to the antechamber, because you're going to create a lot of traction on the base of the vitreous, and at the same time you're going to detach the retina, so which can cause detachment of the retina. So in such cases, you just have to do a minimal anterior vitrectomy and just close the surgery and send it to your vitreoretinal colleague who can do a better job in these cases. And this is another last case. So this we have already discussed about it. It is happening during hydration. Carefully observe this, and now it happens. Just see this rupture of the posterior capsule. What to do? We need not do anything because it's already the surgery is done and your lens is well within the bag, and there is no way it can dislocate into the vitreous cavity. So you need not do anything, just leave it as it is. So this take-home message is we have to provide a closed chamber during all the stages. We have to maintain the contours of the cornea as well as the globe. We should not allow it to collapse during the procedure. Minimize turbulence and pressure inside the antechamber. These pressure fluctuations can lead to tear, even if there is no posterior capsular dehiscency, even if it is a weak posterior capsule, due to turbulence in the antechamber, it can give way. And then mechanically cushion the polar opacity throughout the procedure till you aspirate most of the epinucleus and cortex, and reduce your parameters during the procedure and avoid capsular polishing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Maybe you can stop sharing this in the show, and then go to the Microsoft Teams. Yeah, the left one, sir. Yes. Now you can click on stop sharing. Thank you so much, sir. I think these are really practical and valuable information which are hard to find out. So now let's take the questions from the participating surgeons, sir. So request all the participating surgeons to kindly unmute and go ahead with the questions, please. In the meantime, sir, we have seen this last but one case of hard nucleus with a PPC. Nucleus drop come down. So not during the intraoperative, but during pre-operative evaluation, is there based on clinical experience, is there any single most saying that okay, there is a definitive chance of
some disturbance? Can you just repeat the question, Karthik?
Sorry, am I audible, sir, now?
Yeah, now it's clear. Okay.
So, during pre-operative evaluations, based on the clinical experience, sir, what are the single most criteria that will warn us saying that okay, this case will be a definitive PCR case for hard cataracts or any other cataracts?
Yeah. No, hard cataract sometimes it is difficult, or total cataract is sometimes difficult unless you have anti-segment OCT. But soft cataracts most often, as I have described, shown in the first two slides. So the progressive type of PPC, or those with the cortical riders, or those with the posterior plaque more than 4 millimeters of size, they are more prone to develop PC rupture during the surgery. And there are many other signs, like there's one sign called the Lee Singh sign. That is a Singh sign. So you can see multiple dots in the posterior capsule near your posterior polar opacity that suggests there is a dehiscency in the posterior capsule. Or there is one more sign called fishtail sign. So you have multiple small opacities in the immediate vicinity of the posterior capsule, that is behind the posterior capsule, that moves with the movement of the eye like a fish tail. So these are certain findings with which we can, with surety, we can say that there is a chance of PC rupture, or there's already a PC tear. Be more careful during the surgery.
Okay, so these opacities will be in the vitreous region, sir. Am I right?
It is in the posterior capsule, just adjacent to the polar opacity. That shows there are breach in the continuity of the posterior capsule. And in the fishtail sign, these are the small tiny opacities in the immediate vicinity of the posterior capsule, that is behind the posterior capsule, that is in the vitreous cavity.
Thank you, sir. Request surgeons to kindly unmute and go ahead with the questions, please.
What are the phaco settings? It is normal settings, or we can go for
with experience, you can even go ahead and continue your regular settings. But in the initial phase, it's better you reduce all your parameters. Like the bottle height can be reduced to 60 to 70 centimeters, And if you are using Centurion or other this thing, you can adjust your intraocular pressure settings there. We can use for 45 to 50 millimeters of mercury intraocular pressure during the procedure, and aspiration flow rate can be as low as 16 to 20 millimeters of water, okay, of mercury.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Request surgeons to kindly go ahead with the questions, please.
Dr. Vamshi here, sir.
Okay. Yes, Dr. Vamshi. Yeah. Tell me, Dr. Vamshi.
Wonderful presentation, sir. Excellent presentation. Very useful for all the PECO surgeons who are watching your webinar.
Thank you.
Sir, that delamination, especially that was very mechanical delamination. What you do with this one, that's very quite. This one, what precautions should we take, sir? Like especially when we're doing that, when in such excellent hands, it appears very easy, but.
Yeah. No, like yeah, it's a very important question actually. Mechanical delamination, you have tried hydrodelamination, which has failed. So when you are doing a mechanical delamination, one thing has to be kept in mind is you should have a deep chamber for that. If it is a shallow chamber, when you are doing a mechanical delamination, that will cause stress on the zonules, which can lead to zonular adhesions. So that has to be kept in mind, and you should use a sharp instrument like a sharp chopper or a sharp Sinskey hook, which is a long Sinskey hook. So such instruments has to be used with a blunt chopper or a blunt, very small this thing, Sinskey's hook. You may not get a proper delamination. Chamber has to be deep. That's very important.
Thank you, Dr.
Okay. And again, we have to follow certain, these steps are slightly different from the normal surgery, normal phaco surgery. So your incision should be long, the width of the incision should be more as compared to the normal surgery, because you should not have a chamber collapsing every now and then. And capsulorhexis is again should be of like maybe around 4.5 to 5 millimeters, not more than that. And every step you have to maintain the chamber. When you come out from the anterior chamber, definitely you inject visco and come out. So these certain steps has to be followed, and you can definitely give good results in these cases.
Sir, in short neck individuals, do you think this preoperative medication has any role, sir? Like mannitol or oral glycerol prior to surgery?
Yeah, again, that's one good point. There are many people. Ideally, this procedure it should be done under peripheral anesthesia, because sometimes you may have long surgery because of the complications you encounter. So be prepared for that. But with the experience nowadays, we do it under topical, but there is a possibility that the patient squeezes during the surgery, which can increase the intraocular pressure and can cause vitreous prolapse. But that can be avoided by constantly talking to the patient. Any peribulbar or retrobulbar injection can increase the intraocular pressure sometimes. So that is again one factor that has to be kept in mind. So there are surgeons who give Diamox before surgery or mannitol before surgery. But of course, it can be tried in the initial cases. Definitely you can do that so that you will have a soft eye during phacoemulsification.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Vamshi, for the questions. Request surgeons to kindly go ahead with the questions, please. In the meantime, sir, we have understood that there are two categories of PPC, that is stationary and the progressive. Based on these categories, sir, which one will tend to have more chances of PP, posterior rupture, during the
Yeah.
intraoperative?
So that is progressive type definitely has a more chance of rupture. As I have mentioned, any posterior plaque which is more than 4 millimeters, there is a chance of PCR that has been actually observed by some studies by Dr. Jagatram et al. So larger the plaque, chances of PCR is more, and elderly patients, the chances of PCR is more. So over a period of time, this the capsule becomes more thin. So with the time, so the chances of PCR becomes more in elderly patients also. So, and as the nuclear sclerosis sets in, then the chances of PCR are more as compared to those patients who come to you in the early stage with very soft cataract. It's very easy to remove those cataracts. The complication rate is very less in those cases as compared to those patients who come late. So the chances of complications during nucleus maneuvering increases.
Okay, okay. I think this is a very important point. The harder the grade of cataract, there is a higher chance of posterior rupture than anterior.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, sir.
it's directly related to the this thing posterior capsular tear.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Request surgeons to kindly unmute and go ahead with the questions, please. Sir, this some conditions there will be some tend to be having this thick remnant thick plaque even after the mechanical removal of this posterior plaque also. There is some conditions that this thick plaque tend to remain there in the PVC.
Yeah.
Now, how do we manage such situations, sir? Can we do any back capsule procedure?
Yeah, no, like so. There's actually you will have that tendency to give a polish. You tend to polish those plaques. It's better to avoid that. Whenever you have made a diagnosis of posterior polar cataract, it's better to avoid doing a polishing. So you can always do a yak capsulotomy after the surgery at a later date. Maybe after 3 months of the surgery, you can do a yak capsulotomy. And these are special cases. Actually, posterior polar cataract is a special case, and we have to inform the patient that it is not a normal cataract. It is slightly different from the normal aging cataract. So you have to prepare them mentally that there can be some complications during the surgery, but you need not like. There should not be any fear for the surgery, but you can tell them that this is slightly different from normal cataract surgery. And in case of this thing like complications, we may have to put a alternate lens like sulcus fixated lens or iris fixated lens or even a scleral fixated lens. So that is rare with the modern technology, the surgical techniques, what our surgical expertise, what we have, we can avoid all those complications. But if the posterior capsule itself is very thin and fragile, you may tend to have a rupture. So it's not that all the posterior capsular ruptures need to be, we need not do anterior vitrectomy in these cases. So we can tamponade those forward bulging anterior hyaloid phase with the high molecular weight visco and try to avoid this anterior vitrectomy in these cases.
Thank you so much, sir. We still have 9 more minutes. Hello.
Okay.
Request surgeons to really go ahead with the question. Hello. Please go ahead, doctor.
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Nice presentation, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Sir,
Thank you. Thank you.
for mechanical delineation, So when hydrodeletion fails, only then we should we proceed for mechanical deletion or any other indication?
Yeah, I think it's better to do a hydrodelamination as long as you're able to get it, because it's very easy. The conventional hydrodelamination or even the inside out technique which was described by Vaswada, it's all like it gives excellent results. You have a nice golden ring, so it's very easy. The complication rate comes down. Only if you don't get it, you can try this mechanical, especially in moderate to hard cataracts. So, like, it's not that it is easy. It is definitely it is difficult. So you have to go to the edge of the delineated part and then press it there and then bring it towards the center while insinuating or impaling your this thing phaco tip in the center. You are doing a direct chopping technique. So it's not easy. Mechanical delineation can be done, but the surgery per se may not be as easy as when you get a nice this thing hydrodelaminated nucleus.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
And, definitely try to avoid lateral separation and don't move these fragments away.
Thank you, doctor.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Maybe hello.
Okay. Yeah.
Sir, maybe can you elaborate more on this limited hydro dissection, sir?
Exactly. Yeah, it's actually requires little experience. So you know that the posterior pole is weak, so you don't want the fluid to travel through the entire posterior capsule. In such cases, you can do this limited hydro delamination, limited hydro dissection. So hydrodelamination is done to separate the nucleus from the epinucleus. But once it is done or the nucleus is emulsified, the next step is you are going to separate the epinucleus from the cortex or from the capsule. Okay, in that stage you can do this limited hydro dissection. You inject little quantity of fluid in multiple quadrants and see to it that this fluid wave doesn't travel throughout the posterior capsule. So it is like it just travels 50% of the distance from the anterior capsule. So like you have a free flap of epinucleus, you can easily aspirate it or emulsify it, and the posterior pole is preserved till the end. Even if it goes into the vitreous cavity or drops into the vitreous cavity, easily managed instead of a whole a bowl of this thing or epinucleus dropping into the vitreous cavity. If the only small chunk of epinucleus or cortex drops into the vitreous cavity, it is easy to manage.
Thank you so much. Request surgeons to kindly go ahead with the questions, please. We still have 5 more minutes left on.
Anyway. Okay. And of course, like you say, a type of congenital cataract. Yeah.
Sir.
Yes, Mr. Karthik, you're asking something?
Go ahead, sir. Maybe after that I'll ask this one. General tips to suggest the PPC, how to manage that situation. I know you have explained the whole deliberate points,
okay.
But just for the benefit of the
just in brief, I can explain that. So one thing is from the incision till IOL implantation. So incision actually injection, like it's better in the initial phases. You can do it under palpebral bar anesthesia. And see to it that there is no pressure on the eye. So should have it should not be very firm globe. And if at all that is the status, you can give some mannitol and reduce the intraocular pressure. And incision, it should be a wide incision, at least either a square configuration or a rectangular configuration. and it should not leak easily. And rest is 4.5 to 5 millimeters. Hydro delamination has to be done. If not hydro delamination, mechanical delamination can be done. If at all there is some in the nucleus which needs to be emulsified, you can do what is called chop in situ. You can do a like if it is a soft nucleus, you can emulsify the whole nucleus. There is no need to fragment it and emulsify it. You can emulsify the whole nucleus. If it is a hard nucleus, just either do a minimal trenching and then separate it. But separation of these two fragments can lead to extension of PC tear. It is ideal to do a direct chopping wherein you will not be separating it, you will not be doing a trenching. You just insinuate your phaco tip right in the center and go to the periphery of the nucleus with the Sinskey or your chopper and either a horizontal, preferably a horizontal chopping technique, and emulsify it in the bag or supracapsular emulsification. And then separate the this thing what epinucleus from the cortex with the limited hydro dissection. Remove aspirate or emulsify the epinucleus from the periphery and preserve the posterior part of the epinuclear plate till the end so that you will have support till the end. Cortical aspiration again, and maintain the anterior chamber throughout the procedure. While injecting the lens also, like inject the lens into the sulcus and then you can inject it into the bag in the initial phase instead of going ahead and injecting the lens into the bag and damaging the posterior capsule. You can do this, and again try to avoid it. The lens rotation or nucleus rotation has to be avoided, and going behind the lens, you can do it with experience, but try to avoid it. It stretches the bag and can cause extension of the tear, or it can cause the tear of the posterior capsule if it is very fragile. And again, the anterior chamber pressure has to be maintained while even hydrating the side port or the main incision. You see to it that the globe is firm, not very tight. So I think these are some of to follow, and you can definitely get a good result in these cases.
Thank you so much, sir. I think those are very important information points. If these points are followed, definitely I think that conditions, those figures will be very comfortable to do. Before we close on, any more questions, doctors?
Hello.
Can
you hear me?
Yes, please go on, sir.
Yes,
sir,
please.
So which intraocular lens will you prefer in if there is posterior capsular end?
Which intraocular lens? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I prefer foldable hydrophobic lens, which is a 3-piece lens. Either a 3-piece sensor lens or a 3-piece Acrisof lens. So that is ideal in these cases, so that you place the lens in the sulcus with the optic cap. If it is a single piece lens, it is not possible, like because there is no angulation. So you cannot capture the single piece lens. It's a little difficult. Of course, with the experience you can do it, but there may be some tilt in the lens, and it might come out. And any single piece lens in the sulcus is not good. It gets decentered because the single piece lens is around 12 millimeters in most of the lenses which are available. 3-piece lens is usually 13 millimeters. Even if it comes out of the optic capture, so if it stays in the sulcus, it won't get decentered. So that is the best lens in these cases.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Abhi.
Thank you.
Any more questions, doctor? Thank you, Dr. Anusha. Thank you for stating that almost all your doubts have got cleared out. Thank you, madam. I think we will be closing the session now, sir. Thank you so much, sir. With this, we come to end of today's web show series. It's been a delight to hear from you, sir. Thank you so much for taking time to enlighten us, and thank you so much all the surgeons for your active participation with questions and suggestions to make this a program a successful one. I hope you all have got your takeaway points from this session. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Karthik. Thank you for arranging such a show. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for taking your time out and sharing your.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. Very much valuable and well experienced guidance you have given. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Okay, Karthik, we'll stop
Yes,
sharing. Okay.
yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.